Welcome back. Welcome back to the Extraordinary Drummer Show. As you know, I'm your host, Cheron Moore. Well, I always say today. You know, there's a word in this intro I'm going to add, and I'm not going to even pass it by him because I think he maybe already know what somebody has at least said to him. So I just added one more, my friend. A mystery one. How's that, huh?
I don't know about you, Cheron.
You gotta trust me. You gotta trust me. My guest today. Oh, wow. I mean, you think of his body of work. You think of all the many hit records that we have partied to and danced to and have literally gone from generation to generation. And it doesn't change the genre. It fits right in well in from the 70s, 80s, 90s into the 2000s. What a body of work my next guest has. He's a songwriter. He's a producer. He's an awesome studio drummer. I call him a hitmaker. All of those songs. He's a chef.
Yeah, all right.
I haven't got a plate yet, but he's a chef. He's a drummer's drummer. He's a legend. Will you help me welcome my guest today, Charles Collins. Hey, Charles.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thank you for your kind words.
How you like that big intro, Charles?
It's very humbling and wow. Thank you for your kind words.
Thank you. Welcome to Extraordinary Drummer Show.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about some of your credits. Oh, I mean, the list is just huge. OJ's, Lou Rawls, Teddy Pendergrass, Harold Melvin Blue Notes, Elton John, Spinners, Jackson 5, Stevie Wonder, Denise Williams, and so many more. Let's talk about this one. Valerie Simpson. Tell me, I got you, huh? Tell me,
yeah.
What was it like working with Valerie Simpson?
It was absolutely amazing. I'm really glad that you brought that up because Valerie and Nick were just of course, you know, they're unbelievable songwriters, but as people, they were really, really great. And Valerie, the things that I did with her, she plays piano and she had a way of explaining things to you that you would know exactly what she wanted. And again, it was a pleasure to work with her. I'm so glad to be able to say that I did work with Ashford and Simpson.
Tell me about working with Denise Williams.
Wow. Tom Bell, she and Tom Bell produced her music. And she really used her voice like an instrument. Like it was definitely her instrument. And she could go up and down and just flow. And she had excellent concept of rhythm and where her voice should be. And in fact, one time we were working at the Sigma on 12th Street and so because she was producer, she would come and sing to make sure everything was going the way she'd like to have it. And the singing booth just happened to be behind where the drums were set up. Of course, we all had our earphones on. And she hit some notes that everybody just stopped. I dropped my drumsticks and I had to turn around and look at her because I didn't believe it, how she uses her instrument. She uses it like a soprano saxophone player. She had 5 octaves as well. A lot of people maybe didn't know that, but she could use those octaves, man. You listen to some of the stuff that we did on My Melody, the album, she just took it all away. I really, really loved working with her and Tom.
I know on the Denise Williams record, you played on Silly and It's Gonna Take a Miracle. Tell me about the studio session for Silly, if you remember it.
Well, there's about 3 or 4 time signatures in the beginning of the song. And it was, a Tom Bell classic. the way he wrote it, the strings and horns and the charts. And the Vamp Out, the song had, I think, 3 different time signatures, vamping out. But there it all grooved. And it was just a great day. And it's going to take a miracle. When we did that, of course, everybody in the studio was kind of like familiar with that song. And so as we played it, listened to a playback, Teddy Pendergrass stuck his head through the door and said, "Hey, y'all, that's a hit." I'll never forget that. Never forget that.
You spoke earlier about your contribution to the sound of Philly, your awesome contribution to the sound of Philadelphia and those great bands and studios down there. Talk a little bit about MFSB and South Soul, if you would.
Well, I played with South Soul Orchestra, of course, MFSB. And the thing about it is, it was pretty much the same guys. It would be different producers and stuff. South Soul were some guys out of New York and Florida. And, they had money and they had a concept and they ran with it. MFSB, of course, was Gamble and Huff. And Bobby Martin, who is called the grandfather of the sound of Philadelphia as far as arranging strings and horns. And so it was fun. It was different. Excuse me. I played on South Soul's first album, South Soul Hustle. And so, of course, MFSB, that was my baby. We played Carnegie Hall and Broadway. I really, that got me going. I was, really proud to say I had done that.
Let's go way back. You originally
ain't that old, Cheron. Can't go too far back, bro.
Okay, we'll just go back to last week. You're originally from Chicago?
Yes, sir. Chicago, Illinois, DuSable High School, Captain Walter Diet.
Let's stay there for a little bit in Chicago. Do you remember when you got your first drum kit?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Well, my first kit or my first real kit?
Your first drum kit. Your first drum
All right,
kit.
I know I'm messing with you.
The next one.
I'm messing with you. Actually, my father bought me a set of drums. They were really, 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 really old. They were, secondhand. I got them and I started with them. And then the second set I bought myself. I worked at a grocery store and bought it from Bill's Drum Shop in Chicago. And my aunt bought me a snare drum. And so that was the first kit that I had. The old kit that I had that was Ludwig. And then the one that I bought was Rogers. And the snare drum I had was Ludwig.
Tell me about moving out of Chicago and also working with the Constellation Band.
Well, they were getting ready. They knew that they had a manager. They 3 guys from Chicago, Frank Floyd, Bobby Williams, Zachary Sanders, and they had a guitar player. I can't think of his name. He was the band leader. I'll think of it in a minute. But and they wanted a drummer to go. And I auditioned, and first gig I did with them was the first time I was on the airplane. We went to Las Vegas to play on variety show, Larry Steele's Smart Affairs.
Tell me about the Walk of Fame.
I was inducted into it was a group into the Walk of Fame through the bands that I worked with, MFSB, Soul Soul Orchestra, and John Davis's Monster Orchestra. We were all inducted at the same time in the Philadelphia Walk of Fame. And I got a plaque for that from the Philadelphia Music Alliance.
Charles, let's change reels. Let's talk a little bit of drum technique. All those hit records you've played on, and even the EP you're doing now. What were you using? What were you doing on the drums that just gave it that perfect feel and was universal, that all around the world people could dance to it, and it was one hit after the next? Can you talk about anything on drum technique that you were doing and still do?
I don't know if it basically would be drum technique, as you listen to the song. That's all. You listen, majority of those songs that you're talking about are songs that had vocals, and you listen to the vocal, you listen to the song, how it's structured, and you try, you don't overplay it. Less is more. Listen to what's being played around you. You obviously, you have a certain amount of technique or you wouldn't be there.
In the MFSB, and even in this, I don't know about the South Soul as much, but I know in that Philly thing, Earl Young was really popular for a lot of those songs too.
Absolutely.
What was the difference between your style and his style? And you still made just as many hits, and you had hit records.
I just had a different approach to things, like he did him and I did me. And I think you'd have to listen to it. Our touch was different, is different. Interpretation of things were different. And that was it. I mean, you get two drummers, you're gonna have two different concepts of what should go.
Were you listening to other guys like Earl Palmer and James Gatson and some of the guys?
Oh man, are you kidding? I love those guys. Yeah. In fact, Gatson, that's my boy. I do a work in Philadelphia, and I lived in the middle between Philadelphia and New York and New Jersey, and I drive home. And so I would go to party in New York, and I had this big Lafayette system in my room. And as I'd be getting ready to go to New York and party, I put on "It Only Takes a Minute, Girl." That was Gatson on there, to fall in love. I'd go, man. Yeah, I listen to those guys. Those are the guys.
Let's talk about endorsements. What cymbals you're using, what drums you're using, and so forth.
I endorse Yamaha drums, Paiste cymbals, ProMark drumsticks, and Evans drum heads.
Before I get to the next subject, I want to throw this one in. I mentioned this in the intro. You're a chef.
I enjoy cooking, man. I really do. It's in my blood. The people from my family, I learned from the women in my family, and then I tell people. They say, "Well, how long have you and your wife been together?" And I say, "Well, I had her over for dinner one night. That was 40 years ago. She hasn't left yet." She buys me cookbooks and all kinds of stuff like that. And I enjoy, branching out. I cook Italian, Indian, Chinese, of course, soul food. And living here in Texas, I can barbecue, smoke, brisket and all that stuff. In fact, I got a big belt as an honorary Texan, because my friend Rex, his mother tasted my brisket and they got me that belt. They made me an honorary Texan, and she kissed me. But yeah, I really dig cooking. In fact, I'm cooking dinner tonight.
Let's go back to some drums a little bit. We do a thing on the show that we call Word of Advice, where I ask the drummers, I ask the guests if they leave a parting word for the up-and-comer drummers, even the guys at the next level, but the guys that are trying to get traction in this game, in this industry. Would you leave them a word of advice, please?
Learn about engineering as well. Make a drum machine your friend. Learn to practice with it as well, and get some of these modules or drum pads and learn how to program along with learning your drumming. And guys from my age group, I would say the same thing. One thing we got over these young guys, we've already been in the studio. We know how that works. We've experienced hit records. Imagine if a bunch of us were doing these electronics like what's out there now, how drums could sound. If a lot of these guys think they know how to program, but what if, a real drummer who had experience in the studio was programming, or, playing electronic drums and then being able to edit things like we can. It's a whole nother ball game. So guys, get off the couch, stop golfing. That's why I'm doing me a record.
Get off the couch.
Get off the couch, man. Let's do it. Do it. And the young guys as well. And a lot of these young guys are doing it, but that's what I would advise. Don't, learn how to read music, and definitely learn this technology, and it's changing just like that. Just like that.
Charles, in closing, I always ask the guests this question.
Gemini.
I thought you were going to say, no, I ain't got no money. I had another guy in Philly. He said, whenever you hear that, I always ask this question. The next question after that is, hey, man, look at here.
Yeah.
Hey, man, look at here. That means it wants some money. No, it's a question that I always ask the guys, and that is, Charles, what would you want your legacy to be said, to be told?
I love what I'm doing, and I played for the producers and the singers. I listened to the music and tried to play the song best I could, and then I'm a good husband and a good father, and and a decent person. I'm a good person. That would be my legacy. I'm a good father and a good husband.
Yes, sir. Charles, let me say thank you so very much for being on the Extraordinary Drummer Show.
Thank you for having me, Cheron. It's not only as a pleasure being on your show, but we've talked off record from time to time, and we've always had a good time. I appreciate you as a person.
Will you help me wave goodbye to all the fans?
Bye, y'all. Look for my record. I'm coming out in 2022. All y'all that do stepping, I got a couple of songs on my CD for people that step.
When is it coming out, Charles?
I told you, I don't have a date for it. I'm funding it myself. I don't have a record company giving me any money. So there's nobody's putting any pressure on me to get the next one out until I do this one. So I don't have a date for it, but I'll give you a holler.
Appreciate it. And you come back on the show and talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. I will.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Live, or don't you want to live together in peace?